Good afternoon and welcome back to the Ohio Magazine Word is Art stage. A beautiful Saturday afternoon, about 25 degrees cooler than last weekend, and this is just fantastic. Our next poet has been doing poetry readings and writing for over 40 years. When we talked earlier, he was giving me a list of where he has been published and what he has and his credentials, and I could be up here all afternoon doing that. He first published at the age of 17. His most recent poem was published 3 weeks ago. He's been in the Paris Review. He has a very extensive experience. He introduced poets, the program Poets in the Schools of Ohio. He ran that program for 8 years. It's great that he can grace this stage. Please give a warm welcome to Phil Boiarski.
Thank you. I didn't run Poets in the Schools, but I was in Poets in the Schools for 8 years. I was a poet in Poets in the Schools, and it was fun because everywhere you went, all the kids would say the same thing, which is, "I thought all the poets were dead." The first poem that I'm going to read is called Pakicetus. Pakicetus is one of the first fossils that was ever found, and it was proof of Darwin's theory that mammals actually went back to the ocean in the form of whales and dolphins and stuff like that. In their fins they have hands, in their flippers they have legs, but that all formed together and changed over evolution. This was published in an anthology in Australia. It was the cows and pigs that did it, seeing what was intended for them, what their futures contained, seeing how their herds would be gathered and numbered, drove us out further into the sea, from shores, bays, rivers, feedings in the shallows. We swam out further, deeper, away. The vast oceans became our pastures, our grazing ground. Eventually a hand became a fin, leg variations formed a fluke. The canals of the ear lessened and the lungs grew and changed. 15 million years, a day against the age of dirt, the age of water. Now with one breath held for hours, diving down negative mountains deep into black waters, we sing arias to each other with low notes few others can hear. Long, mournful songs of grass and flowers, sweet water and green fields waving in the wind as far as the eye can see. Thank you. Thank you. This is called Bird Against the Glass, if you ever had that happen. Bird against the glass. A bird in the house is a bad omen. It has happened before, I know. It happened when she took ill, and it happened when she died. It is very bad when a bird tries to get in. You draw the curtains, pull the blinds. The bird keeps throwing himself at the mirrored glass. Sure, you say, it's his reflection. He's trying to fight. Well, it's just as strong as he is, and it will resist his insistent banging until he dies. In the semi-darkness of the cloudy day, just enough sun for the thing to see itself, sitting on the same branch, glaring back like an angry rival. Bang again, the sound of hollow bones and feathers drumming against the transparent pane. I open the curtain, slap the blind back up the retracing wall, and wave my hands like giant wings before the window, and the bird, frightened to death, flies away. This is an ekphrastic poem. It's a poem about a picture. The picture was of a child in Africa that was starving. It's called Hungry. I confess I haven't ever really gone more than a day or two without eating, and even then I drank a lot. If you can afford to drink enough, you don't eat. You may feel hungry, but not really. If you're on a fad diet, you don't really know what it means to be hungry. You think you know, and if you lost a little weight, you may have some idea, but willful hunger is not true, not real hunger. In black and white, the photo, the child has eyes the size of hard-boiled eggs, a face like a leather-covered skull. Those empty eyes stare at the camera, blank, too dry for tears, feeding flies. I hunger for words to say more. This is a poem about my dad. It was just published in an anthology of Polish-American writers. My father was a barber. Hair is alive after it is cut. It works its way into the flesh, worms its way between the webs of fingers the way a serpent digs a hole. A barber's hands are made holy by hair until the web between the fingers is completely pierced, wounded, infected, then healed over. Never completely overgrown or healing completely shut, like an intentional piercing for an earring. My father would show off these holes, pushing a toothpick through them like a splinter that went through skin without pain. Like the wire or the stud of an ornament, a kind of ritual of scarring he came to be proud of. The shop has long been closed. He goes to rest homes to give the sick and dying a trim, to clean them up for a visit, to snip the brushes growing from their noses. In dreams, their long-haired corpses gather at the chair to be groomed. He claims they will get him in the back door of heaven in payment for the kindnesses he has given. The angels and the saints have a shop set up for the care of living hair, where souls all come in for a trim, and he'll sing and tell them jokes while cuttings glowing turn to snow. I'll read one old and one new, and I'll be done. This is the first poem I ever published in the Paris Review. It's called Blood Soup, which is an old Polish recipe. She called the white ducks with the soft clucking of her tongue, and they came to her busy hands for the hard corn she shelled. Taking a fat one up in her arms, soothing the down with her cheek, she cooed and sang to it, while the eager beak bit at her palm cup. She bowed the graceful head down to sleep beneath a perfect white wing, and keeping her place on the long neck like a finger in a book, she brought up a porcelain bowl to hold in her knees in one motion. I can still see the shining blade layering through the orderly feathers, through the sleeping veins. Headless, featherless ducks swam in clear water, dark blood, carrots and apples, black prunes, parsley, pepper, thyme, until meat fell away from the bone and pieces floated among white Kluski clouds in a dark brown broth. Every bit of the down she saved for small pillows, and when she gave them to my children, she said, "They won't remember me, so tell them these are from the duck feather woman." They took them eagerly from her knotted fingers. This poem won first prize at the Toledo Museum of Art. If you ever get up there, they have some incredible Asian art. And this poem is about a piece called Kumori Cherry Trees by Hiroshi Yoshida. And what it is it's a moonlight painting of two geishas walking by two cherry trees under a full moon from the 30s, the 1930s. And I saw it and I realized that's the same moon they're walking under as I was walking under when I wrote it. And that we are walking under, everybody's walking under, every place all over the earth. They're walking under the same moon that Aristotle walked under, they're walking under the same moon that Jesus walked under, they're walking under the same moon as their great-great-great-great-grandfathers walked under and looked up and thought about. And that got me to thinking about this poem, and then it won. So, bada bing, right? It's called Under an April Full Moon. It starts out with a little epitaph by a Chinese writer named Shi Tu. In light, darkness, not taken in darkness. In dark, light, not taken as light. Light and dark opposed, like front and back foot walking. The last of dusk, now subsumed in night, dwells with the pair here in the darkness, while that enormous April moon, full and fat, bathes all surfaces in a soft glow. Subtler still, the cherry blooms, their momentary show reflected in a shadowy half-light. The two, one older, both in blossom, pause as fading eyes mute all starkness and bring all beings closer to each other. Time walks here too, in their forms, and in the two women, their kimonos silvered by the shining, like water in an old well. Thank you.
It's been less than 10 minutes.
Phil Boiarski,
I'd rather leave them.
Gentlemen,
Okay.